This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we've jumped into our time machine to head back to the 80s, where we can look at the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Mer-Man, the Ocean Warlord, from the cartoon collection based on the Filmation cartoon. On the back of the box, we see Mer-Man using the power of the Pearl to try to mummify He-Man, Man-at-Arms, and Battle Cat. Which reminds me, are they going to give us an actual cartoon Battle Cat at some point? I wonder. Like the others in the cartoon collection, we just get the modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe animated series quip down at the bottom, with us telling it's the as seen on the episode called City Beneath the Sea. Which I'll be perfectly honest, I don't remember that episode at all. Included with him is the Pearl of Power, and you can twist him into powerful battle positions. As part of this quote wave, even though they've been sent out in groups of 2 along with fan favorites, we have Tila, the heroic warrior goddess, Trapjaw, evil and armed for combat, Stratos, the winged warrior, and Mer-Man, the ocean warlord. Let's open this sucker up. We get our usual informational packet here with his removable parts, standard for Origin style and Cartoon Collection style. We have the mini comic, The Perilous Power. You know, I'm surprised I didn't go for the pun and go Perilous Power. But when we open up our start, we have Mer-Man has stolen both the Staff of Avalon and the Power of Pearl from his own people. Obviously, the Staff of Avalon is from Stratos' people. His plan is, of course, to flood all of Eternia, turning it into a giant ocean, which, you know, unless you can create a shit ton of water, Mer-Man, you ain't gonna be able to flood an entire planet. At best, you can move the oceans around, and I think your own people would be kind of pissed off about that. The other thing is, for whatever reason, the Pearl of Power is actually able to mind control all the Aquaticans, and he is going to make them into his army with that power. And he thinks he's safe because the Staff of Avalon has a failsafe which allows enough energy to destroy the entire planet, apparently. That is a really stupid-ass failsafe to have. I'm just saying, you know? So Mer-Man's plan is to destroy a bunch of levees in order to flood areas. Again, great. You can move some of the ocean around, but you're still not going to be able to cover everything in Eternia. Because the whole continents are not under sea level. Otherwise, there probably would have been life on the planet in the first place. The avians go to try to help. I'd like to note, in this comic, we don't actually see Stratos' sister at all. Although maybe that one kind of in the center, lower center panel might be her. It's a slightly more feminine looking outline than the rest of them. But they go to try to stop the seas. Mer-Man does appear to be using some of the Aquaticans as his army, and he keeps on summoning more and more power. But then he loses control of the staff because Mer-Man is incompetent. And as I mentioned before, how unless you can make more water, you can't flood an entire planet. Well, what he ended up doing was draining the city, so he's basically killing the city in his attempt to cover the entire ocean. And the imbecile triggered the failsafe, so it's getting ready to detonate and destroy the entire planet. Which again, that is a stupid failsafe. Stratos sees Zor flying around, and even though Zor's thing as being the sorceress is supposed to be kind of a hidden thing, where only a handful of people know about it, apparently Stratos is one of them now. But she mentions in order to stop the failsafe, basically all that he needs to do is take hold of the staff, get it away from Mer-Man, because that will restore the equilibrium. Mer-Man actually does, in fact, give up the staff to Stratos in order to stop the destruction of the entire planet. Good, Mer-Man, good. And then Stratos, He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Orko, not that Orko's useful for much of anything, and Extendor, they help the Aquaticans repair the levees of Lodi and halt the flooding of the continents, also probably saving their own world. Mer-Man, of course, goes back to the Princess Nami, not to be mistaken with Nami from One Piece. Princess Nami, I have returned the Pearl of Power. Now I beg your forgiveness. I never meant to threaten our people, nor our seas. And Princess Nami does forgive him, but exiles him from the city. You know what? She should have just executed him. Just get rid of the dumbass. But the Eternian is safe as the levees have been restored. He-Man wonders if Mer-Man will have learned his lessons. Stratos gives us a nice little thing about power for power's sake being dangerous, which I think anybody who watches politicians probably realized that for any politician who's been in office for more than 10 years. Where He-Man gives us, agreed, for some odd cosmic reason, those who crave power least are the ones who are most fit to wield it. With Orko making the joke of, maybe that's why my magic is so strong. We get the cross cell on the back with Teela, the warrior goddess, Trapjaw, the armed for combat, Stratos, the winged warrior, and Mer-Man, the ocean warlord. I just realized, kind of like with Stratos not having heroic on him, Mer-Man doesn't have evil on his. So Mer-Man's face sculpt is designed kind of more toy-like, although I guess it's maybe a combination of the toy and the original artwork because of the fins around his head there. But man, he looks like a doofus. Like he really does. He looks like like he's as dumb as a box of rocks, man. I just he looks like he should be drooling out of his mouth and, just standing there just doing that all day. He's also got a gripping, not a gripping hand, but I guess you could call it the Skeletor shield hand almost, kind of clawed. And we get that so he can hold the pearl, which is a precarious balancing situation in some cases. This kind of reminds me of a number of years ago where, and I don't remember which figure it was. I think it was King Grayskull. Yeah, it was King Grayskull. When they did the mass release for him in Classics, where Scott Nightlicker, um, had Toy Guru, aka Spectre Creative, told us that the King Grayskull figure was going to come with this awesome accessory, and it turned out to just be the quote orb of power, which, like this, is just basically a marble. Only in that case of the King Grayskull, it was a giant marble. So my general opinion is with these kind of things is that they're pointless. And there's nothing you do with it other than putting it in their hand. They can't hold it any other way. So, all right, well, I was expecting it to pop out there. But you know what I'm saying. It just, boom. So I'm not a big fan of marbles as accessories. He also comes with a trident. This is the same trident that came with the Turtles of Grayskull Mer-Man, although I think it was designed for him first, obviously. And he can hold it in his hand. But he can't hold it two-handed because he doesn't have a gripping hand. So I go back to my whole thing where if they're going to give us any kind of other hand, they should also give us a gripping hand with the figures. Like, it can't cost that much, right? Now let's go ahead and take a look at Mer-Man's articulation. Head's on a ball joint, so we get this 360 spin. He can look up a little bit, and he can look down a little bit. Down off to the side, up to the side. And spin around. Arm-wise, we can lift it up on the hinge. We can push it down on the hinge. Up and down, and up and down. We can get a spin. As expected, the little flappy thing on his shoulder, or the shoulder pauldron, gets in the way. You can force your way around and watch him knock his head off to the side. Shall we do that again? Boom! Ugh. Actually, trying to do it from the front doesn't work very well. Because when you do it from the front, it actually gets kind of caught up on the joint. Speaking of which, we have the elbow bend, a little less than 90. I still think that's a little bit better than what we get with the standard ones, maybe. Although I am kind of wondering, because of the amount of detail over here, I think this actually might be a reuse and not actually new for this figure, but I'm not sure who it's reused from offhand. Like, when I say reused, too, I'm talking about from Origins, not the cartoon collection. We get the spin at the wrist, and we get the in and out articulation. Sadly, the plastic used on the hand is not matched up to the color on the wrist very well, so it does stand out as being different. We can do a 360 spin. We can kick up yay far. And we can kick back yay far. We got the knee joint, which does a little bit better than 90. There's a pretty good ratchet in there, too. So it looks like it'll stay posed pretty well. 360 spin at the boot cut. Does look like he's using the same boot tops as Skeletor. But he does have, I think, new feet, because I don't recall any of the Origins or the cartoon collection having the toes like that, because Skeletor had boots instead of scaly feet. And of course we get the spin and the hinge. The back of Mer-Man's harness kind of comes apart like that. I don't know. I'm a little concerned about the tab there being just out there as the tab. It just feels to me like this is something that might break easier than some of the other harness designs that they've done recently. But you can actually get it to close a little bit better. I know the head sculpt is pretty accurate for the cartoon, but I'm not a big fan of it. I have to admit that when I've watched some of the clips from the cartoons recently, or if you ever watched Skeletor Reacts by the Shaneology channel, occasionally you'll have the cartoon Mer-Man make an appearance. Not the figure, but like an actual clip from the show. And I don't think Filmation did a good job with the design for Mer-Man's head. I don't like it, and I don't know what would improve this, because I sit there thinking like if they maybe added some more color to his face, perhaps. And I should have brought a Mer-Man with me, you know, the Origins Mer-Man to do a comparison with, but I didn't think about it at the time. I don't know. So far, I gotta say, this is probably my least favorite cartoon collection figure that we've gotten so far. And it's like, and it's the fault of the design, to be honest. It's not so much that I don't like the character or anything. I don't like the design. I just don't like that head sculpt. And it is, like I said, pretty accurate to the cartoon. So I don't know. It's just something about it that I just don't like. I think I just think it looks worse in 3 dimensions than it did on the screen too. You know. But let me know what you think. What do you think of this head sculpt on Mer-Man? Is it good? Do Do you like it, or do you prefer the other ones? To be honest, I like the Lords of Power version of Mer-Man the best as far as origins go. But that Turtles of Grayskull one, man, he is a beastly looking thing, and that is still, even now, or definitely now, the best Merman design that I've seen so far. So, take that with a grain of rice, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed this review. Like if you liked it, or, just to help the channel out. Throw in a subscribe if you want. There's going to be a little thingy at the end where you can do that easily enough. And leave me a comment. And if you hated this, just remember, you can always send it to people you don't like to torture them. Peace and love.